What is up? Welcome, my friends, to Kevinachi once again. Bloody hell, we've finally arrived at the one level on USDT dominance, tether dominance, right? Or, yeah, it is tether dominance, but one has been officially taken. And just a recap on what this means generally for the actual pivot points on tether dominance. Will it reverse and go back up? And the answer to that is maybe, right? It's not a guarantee, but let's say, for example, this did kind of go into the 1618 region, retested one, and then fully extended back into the region. I believe this might be the 1618 of this measure, which it is, right? And then it went into the bear market by the looks of it. And on this one, I don't know if that was the bear market. I need to double check that fact. But tether dominance did increase back again. On the 2021 rally into the first false peak of the previous bull market, we got a tag into 1618. We went back to 1, right? We bounced off the level and then we broke back down all the way back to this high here. What I'm trying to note here is that when one is touched, there is some sort of reversal, right? Not the fact that this is going to go all the way up. That's not guaranteed. But in terms of a reversal, there is a very likely chance, even if we are bearish. So there's a high probability that we bounce from these regions sometime soon. Maybe there might be like a further extension down. I'll show us a bit later. But another example is here, right? The measurement is literally this high and the first low that it creates, right? And 1 is the level that is retouched. So for this one, for this measurement, the 1 level is touched, and then there's an extension measured from this high and the low created here, right? And the only region that it doesn't occur for, I'll just show you in a second, but from this measurement here, this 1 level is out here. When it goes into this 1 level, right, it reverses out, and then the new measurement is taken, goes to 1618, goes back to 1. This is the only circumstance that 1 was not bounced from, and there's a full breakdown from there, right? So let's count it up, shall we? That wouldn't even count that as a measurement back here, but it did go to 1618. But we'll use the 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll even use this one as an X here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4 out of 6 times we bounced from 1. There was a guarantee, well, statistically speaking, that from 1618 it would go back to 1. That's happened every single time. Every single time it goes to the 1618 region where there's a high probability pivot. High probability that it goes back to 100% probability that it goes back to 1 complete. 4 in 6 chance that it bounces from 1. Right? So are we guaranteed to bounce from here? No, there's a 4 in 6 chance. But should we bounce, we might expect something similar to this over here, where we extend further, and that's like the last leg of the cycle, right? And how do we measure this? We'll go back to the Measure it like so, and then once the price gets to approximately, or the tether dominance gets to approximately 4.15, that's when we would consider the possibility of calling on the bear market, right? Let me make that red or something, make it red. Red for sell, right? Now is green, buy. Am I saying that it won't do this? No, I'm saying that there's a 4 in 6 chance that it does this, right? And then once it does get here, there's a 100% probability from previous data that it rejects and then it goes back down. I don't think it's going to do it for a third time, in my humble opinion, not financial advice. So let's have a look at our key cryptos, as I have been in my previous videos, and BitTensor has broken down from this trend line, has massively rejected off the full extension 0618 to 065 region, and it is trending back into the golden pocket of the range that it started from here to here, right? And something about BitTensor is that there is a fractal that has been, repeating itself. I like to call it the cock and balls, because you can see like a supplier region, like an area of I guess trading activity, sideways activity, expansion to the top, and then a deviation below that trading activity here, right? And thus we have the cock and balls, and we have a large cock and balls over here, and I'll do it in yellow in a second, like this, or pink. No, that's just too similar to red. Yellow, right? And you got that little region of noise here. We have a very similar structure here, right here. So anywhere within this region between 300 and, I'm just going to throw a random number out there, like 275 or something, really good levels to be bidding Tau if you believe that it is still on. And how to kind of like prime your mind for, confluence is that if you have something that is statistically significant, I know that there's not many occurrences of this, but for the time being, I would consider it so, because the actual duration of this market doesn't allow for us to test this more than X amount of times. But if you have, say, for example, a repeating pattern, right? This is just a random example here. The cock and balls pattern, right? And you have a fib level that you can paint here, right? 0618. And also, these are 3 things, right? A fractal, a golden pocket region, the tether dominance pivot from 1. So that means there's, in terms of anywhere within this range, the 1 level would be the least amount of risk, or the most controlled amount of downside that you're particularly going to have through the entirety of this correction, right? Because it could be the level that it bounces from all the way back up, or at least back up to the 1618 region. So you would be more on the side of wanting to be bullish, contrarian to people who might be saying it's over because of the Iranian war. I'm very well aware that there's wars that, are breaking out left, right, and center right now, but try to take your mind off the news, because how it impacts the charts is, there might be some immediate impact, but in terms of wars, generally the markets fare very, favorably for bulls, at least within the first 12 months. I can't remember the absolute statistics on the longer term side of things, but in a year or so, people won't even remember that this event did anything for the markets, similar to other things like the banking, like the banks collapsing, etc., which was early in the cycle as well. or the yen carry trade, right? Yada, yada, yada. But we've been waiting for this level, so naturally adding a little bit of size. But in terms of other trades worth taking at the moment, something that I am sneakily in is Doge, and the reason being is because Doge is at a key level 0.786. I saw other trades like Near, which I got stopped out of. The structure is completely broken. I don't think that this is something that I want to re-enter for the time being. It looks a little bit scary, but for things that look like they're holding structure, and for Doge, I've seen it bounce from levels like this before, as per my example on this left-hand side, where there is a retrace down to 0.786 and at least a bounce back into the region somewhere. And if we're at a pivot point on tether dominance, this would be an excellent trade to be considering, like taking it back at least to the, you know, that wick level at 0.382, and there should be probably confluence on the reversal side here. Oh my god, get the heck out of my way. There should be some confluence here. Well, it doesn't exactly hit 0.618, but should the price start to bounce up, the rebound zone here is where you want to be taking profits, right? Maybe at the tip of this wick here at, you know, 20-ish or so cents. And there's, you know, another bit of resistance here, and obviously resistance back here. So triple resistance, taking some profits at this region. How much would that be? I don't know, like 50, 44-ish if he gets there. We'll be monitoring this, and the stops are just below the 0.786. Could get stopped out if there's another leg down opening week because of the war. Something else, a small position I've taken in. You know, not very strong position at all, but I thought that, you know, it's a nice place to bid. On Pepe, I actually, like I've said in previous videos, I had this yellow ABC like line drawn out from like this region here, and it's just hit everything tick for tick. I did have a short put in place at the top here, and I did take profits a little bit too early, but profits nevertheless. Why I took a trade on Pepe is because obviously I had other coins that I would like to have gotten in, but when I find a setup that's easy to take, I will just take it. So it's at a very similar support as Doge, but you know, I am quite bearish on Pepe. But also something worth mentioning, I know I'm like going in different directions right now, but there is a support resistance flip potentially in play, at least to the midsection of this range before collapsing further, maybe, right? So I'd like to see Pepe come back to, you know, the 1.2 cent region here near the RZ area before taking some profit. So like a decent bounce, and I'll just be tracking along with the tether dominance and how that performs alongside the reversion back to 1618. Something that I was eyeing off as well was Hype, and I was saying in one of the group chats that, you know, the measurement from here to here, trend-based fib being measured out, that's something that I've mentioned in previous videos. 4618 would be the very, very likely pivot, at least a correction back to the highs here or low 30s. And I was being told, you know, in this region that, you know, there's you know, you shouldn't be shorting Hype, you know, they're continuously purchasing tokens, but as you see here, there has been it's not the biggest correction, like 26%, but there was, you know, a likely pivot at the top here, and it has occurred. What else is worth looking at? Solana. I need a drink of water. It's dry as heck right now. Solana. I have a little bit of a drawing here already, and it sort of followed this, you know, this fib this fib, and also this fractal in a way where we've made a higher high with divergence. There's like the RSI here. There's, you can see the RSI go lower high as the price does a higher high, right? The actual price drops below the lows in the circumstance 2 of the set of lows, which isn't bullish, right? I'm a bit worried about how Solana looks, but in saying that, it did hit the 180 region, and I was suspecting that it would hit at least the 0.5 region before rejecting 0.5. I marked myself as 170. Now it has retraced with the market, but is it still on for the Sol Boys? I mean, right now, if we were to use the non-log, there is support here at the golden pocket of the non-log fib. Maybe another retest down to the 0.65 at 127 before staging a reversal, depending on what Bitcoin does. And I think that's what this is ultimately dependent on, right? If we see Bitcoin, I do have a bid on Bitcoin at $95,000 at the moment, because that is the level for my indicator. Let me turn off this shiznits. Right? If it ends up demon wicking down and bouncing like one of these, that would be a very, very excellent pickup. And the stop you can see here as well with the risk involved at $9,000 dollars. Do I think that's going to happen? Maybe, maybe not. But other than that, I don't really have edge at the moment on Bitcoin to be entering any trades here. But there's better RR trades elsewhere, like I've shown you with like the likes of Doge, and with the likes of Pepe. Very small trade for Pepe, and okay size for Doge, right? Do I have any insider news? No, I don't. But in terms of what the Doge BTC chart looks like, there seems to be, potential support here. And the history of Doge BTC has been, as you can see, from this immediate chart here, is that the 12-hour on the indicator, does appear to be a good level of support, and also this yellow line of support has broken across, and maybe it's a deviation, or there's a lot more pain left to come for Doge, and we don't really get a bull rally for Doge, which would be the first time in this market's history. But the stop's really tight. It doesn't really matter. If it runs, it runs. If we dump, we dump. And as you Gen X people or super young people say, like, some of these coins are low-key cooked. And as you see, things like TIA, I can't remember what sector it is. Oh, it's modular. That's what it is. Modular sector. It's not looking good. These are coins that you're probably wanting to avoid, but at some point I'm suspecting there's going to be like some sort of short squeeze, and it stages a massive just fuck off candle out of nowhere. That's just how things happen these days, well, generally in crypto anyways. What else can we look at? Yeah, other charts like Pendle, that have been bullish throughout this cycle. It is worrying to see, and it has a similar structure to BitTensor, where the large range RZ main has been rejected from, right? And it is on the macro producing lower highs, and besides this wicking, let's say these are technical lower lows and another lower high since this high here, which means that there could be start of a bear market. And you can see that on Solana as well, right? We're seeing lower highs and very convincing lower lows. We do want to see a bounce from Solana somewhere here, right? There's a massive trend line that started at the start of this market, and hoping we can hold the line there and bounce potentially to all-time highs to join Bitcoin in its search for price discovery. So what else? Ethereum. Same thing with Ethereum. I've been talking about this rebound zone main for Ethereum coming back to potentially the golden pockets. Do I think it's going to come back down to 1700? Not if it's a bull market. No, I think now that I can see that the price is so close to this golden pocket here, there is a potential that it comes down to 2,100, which means that, because at the moment it's in sort of no man's land, right? Like I tend to think here that there is a push down to a confluent region of the 0.618 and also the 1.618 of the measured move of this range, which happens to be 2,100. And what does that mean for the rest of the market? I'll probably get stopped out on Doge. I'll probably get stopped out on Pepe, right? And I probably get stopped out on some ads that I put on Bitensi, like literally like before I started this video. Very, very tight. I'm not discounting another push down. And when there's like a real capitulation, I might think of adding in a little bit heavier. But for the moment, just toying around, just jibber jabbering, jabbing around, because we have reset at 1 and the potential of a reversal is there. And if there's support on some coins, you're just going to have to take the chance there, and you get good risk reward anyways. So when you get stopped out, you don't get stopped out on too much capital, and yeah, you have another day to fight. So do I have anything else? I think that was enough talking. Hopefully that gives you guys some insight. Maybe I can look at the S&P 500 as well. We've staged a massive rally on the S&P 500 at the moment, all the way close to the all-time highs. Like we're literally 1.5% off the all-time highs for S&P 500, right? For NASDAQ, literally less than 1% off the absolute all-time highs. Markets are literally back at all-time highs. Yield curve. We haven't been accelerating as quickly as we were in April. However, we're still steady at the level, and I think there is potential to keep pushing upwards. It's just really a tricky situation at the moment, because it's something that I've seen before. We've made a top in January once the yield curve inversion started to accelerate, but we have reached the top again. And my targets for S&P 500 for the longest time has been 6,300, according to how I measure out my fibs. I think I do have it on this chart right here. Nope, I don't. Oh, I do. Yep, I have it measured here from the largest move of the range. Here, as you can see, it's the GFC. Right, measure out the GFC in its full range, and the 2618, which is very close, is at 6,300. Might deviate above slightly, but that is the level to be watching should we get there in the near future, and that would be my likely top call for the equities market. I think that's sort of it. Hopefully that's been valuable to you guys, and yeah, it's been a while since I made a video. Hopefully you guys still alive out there. Speak soon. Peace.